Yes, yes, y'all, and you don't stop to the beat, y'all, and you don't stop. Yes, yes, y'all, and you don't stop to the beat, y'all, and you don't stop. Yes, yes, y'all, and you don't stop to the beat, y'all, and you don't stop. Yes, yes, y'all, and you don't stop to the beat, y'all, and you don't stop. Yes, yes, y'all, and you don't stop to the beat, y'all, and you don't stop. Yes, yes, y'all, and you don't stop.
First, just want to ask how y'all feel about culture as being a weapon. And is right now, is it being used against us? You know, I did an article about a couple weeks ago, and talked about there's a new form of like blaxploitation too. You got everything that you see from films to radio to TV all intertwined. And I spoke to a young brother the other day, and he mentioned Django. I'm not gonna get into that right now, but I mentioned you should know about Nat Turner. He goes, who's Nat Turner? So on that note, how is culture being used at us as a weapon, and how can we move beyond it? Start with Brother Hussayn Bey.
Hussayn Bey Organizations, Building Communities and Families, also NIA, North Star Institute for Youth, Academics, Art, and Athletics. Is culture a weapon? It could be. I think culture is a tool, but it's really more a natural way of expression. So culture is neither negative or positive. It's just a natural way of expressing yourself. Like the culture of a dog is to do the things that a dog's instincts are designed for it to do, right? So I think the most important weapon is the mind of the person that's naturally being cultural. Now, when your mind has been displaced or replaced or been poisoned, then culture can be used as a tool to continue that degradation. So really it's about changing the minds of everybody involved. The culture itself will shift when the mentality of the people practicing the culture is shifted.
Peace, this is Stahhr, represent the universe. Is culture a weapon? I think anything in the hands of someone who is uninformed or unaware, it can be used against them in a weapon-like state. But the weaponry works both ways. It can either be used on you or you can use it on others. So anytime you are relying on someone other than yourself to educate you about who you are, you're already in trouble. And being that most things that we receive in this day and time come from some kind of social media outlet or from TV or from radio, very few people are still reading books and doing their own research. And even with that, where are the books coming from? It's like you have to just go. My answer is always go within, because you have all the records you need. Your Akashic records, it's in your DNA. If you meditate and tap in enough, everything you need to know is already there. We look outside of ourselves too much. And I feel like there's never going to be a representation that someone other than me who doesn't benefit from me knowing myself, it will never be accurate. You know what I mean? All I can say is, sisters, you have to stay strong and you have to remain vigilant on your quest to know yourself. When you know yourself, nobody can manipulate you. No one can take advantage of you. You cannot be fooled. You are the source. You are the foundation. You are the first, you are the last, you are the alpha, and you are the omega. All things come from you. All things that have ever existed are within you. So there is no separation between you and everything. And I would just say, it was said earlier, you have to unplug. Like, don't look to TV to build you up to be who you are. Don't look to magazines. Don't look or listen to radio or video for that. If you have any strong women in your family, in your neighborhood, in your community, reach out to them. And just be vigilant about loving yourself. Love yourself more than anything else. That's because really, you know, they are going to attack us because we are the key. If we're the first teacher and the nation can rise no higher than us, then of course they're going to try to destroy us. So you have to already be aware and know that, and you have to have your psychic shield up at all times, and just know self. And you get to know self through silent reflection, meditation, and just going within. And again, any of those examples, because we all know at least one strong woman, and there's different strength can be measured in so many different ways. It's not just one particular way. Being humble, humility is a strength. Being able to be quiet and reserved and keep your emotions in check and balance. That is strength. It's not always being loud and your neck and all that. So strength has many different forms. But yeah, I mean, you know what time is our time. It's the year of the black snake. That's feminine energy. We just came into a new age. So it's all about the 9, which represents the woman, the womb. So, I mean, it's your time. So just be, all the other stuff, ignore that. I mean, that's a dead paradigm that we need to stop giving energy to, because it doesn't even exist anymore. It only exists because we allow it to exist, period. So that's what I would say.
Davey D, Hard Knock Radio. The question is culture being used as a weapon? And I think that's a loaded question, because what is really culture? Reality television with black people acting a fool, that's not my culture. It's somebody else's culture that's being marketed to us as black culture. And I think what we need to deal with is who's marketing, what money is behind expression and this thing that we call art, and what's the benefit of that marketing. So to answer your question in terms of is culture a weapon, yeah, it's a weapon when we use our true culture and we truly understand what that means. You know, if it's hip hop, what does it really mean when we're practicing hip hop in its full breath? You know, what does that mean when we're practicing love, unity, we're building community, we're using our art as a way to hit back on a system that's hitting on us? When we do that, then it's definitely going to be a weapon against those who are attacking us. And I think one of the methods that have been used over the years is recognizing the potential for that to happen, and moves have been made to study our culture and then take steps to neutralize it. In 1978, there was an FBI informant named Darthard Perry, who you can find on the internet when he talked with Gil Noble, who talks very specifically about the types of study that, you know, those in power have done on culture, you know, and very deliberate in the sense that if you study culture, then you can understand the people. And if you understand the people, then you can make moves to dismantle them. And he said that everything was studied from the activities that we like. Great detail was spent on things that we might have just thrown away or overlooked, and our own personal habits. You know, what do you like to drink? What kind of women do you like? All these types of things. And then it was used in a way to demoralize entire communities and redirect the type of energy that people were gathering. So when I connected to, say, hip hop, and if we're calling hip hop as a culture, one of the things that you will always see is that whenever you start to get any sort of unification, or even lots of conversation around it, you will see it quickly dismissed. So let me give you an example. In the 90s, you had a gang truce. There you go, Rudy. All right, sir. All right, now. When you, in the 90s, you had the gang truces in LA come about. And alongside those gang truces, you had music to kind of accentuate that. We're all in the same gang. You saw a lot of people start to come together, and there was a lot of conversation. Then you saw that spread over to the Latino community, right? Now, since that posse cut, you know, which everybody loved and thought was great, and we said we need more, there's been a whole bunch of posse cuts. There's been Turn Down the Crack House. There's been Hip Hop for Respect. We can go on and on, right? You never seen that highlighted. You know, since we're all in the same gang, you don't see those posse cuts. There was a female posse cut around Freedom that they did for the Panther movie, you know, and what I look at is that if that starts to be able to symbolize people coming together, then you go, well, why didn't you see this continue on? So you start to look and you go, okay, when you get a bunch of people that's talking about bragging, you know, or nothing really of importance, then they'll let that posse cut come together. So when Foxy Brown and Lil Kim and them all come together, that posse cut gets there. While the Queen Latifah, you know, Nefertiti posse cut about freedom, that gets hidden in the back. You know, Mos Def brings 32 artists together to talk about police brutality. They won't even play the song in New York, where he's from, right? But then you get a bunch of cats talking about they're the king of New York, you know, and how many Glocks they have, then that is being broadcasted all over the place. So I think for people watching, whenever you start to see people unifying, you start to see people come in with an apprehension and an absolute disruption of it, then you can say, okay, that's where the pressure point is. That's where they don't want to see folks come together. And even like after the Million Man March, people came together, and you would almost think it's been written out of history. Then you had the Million More March come after, 10 years later. That's been literally been written out of history. You know, Jasiri, who's going to speak next, right? All these people from different religious backgrounds come together in Pittsburgh. They form a collective called One Hood. That's literally been not celebrated. So to me, culture in the sense of what we do is when we come together and we build community, you know, in various forms, but I'm just going to say building community and each one teach one and replacing the I with a we is part of our culture. That is something that you will always see disrupted when it starts to become a threat. And as soon as we get back to really understanding that and push for that day in and day out, it will really be a weapon.
Yeah, but I will first want to ask to deal with the culture as a weapon, because I just wanted to say, like, if you believe culture is a weapon and you believe it's being used to destroy and attack our children, then what are we doing to get in between that weapon and our children? If I love my child and I see somebody pull out a gun and shoot my child or go to shoot my child, I'm going to then put my body in front of my child to protect it. So you mentioned Django, and I say that because in our media academy, where we have 25 young black men from ages 14 to 19, we watched Django. First, you know, we made sure that the parents knew that we would be showing some things that had language in it and some different things so we could have the conversation. But watching Django caused us to have a conversation about slave rebellions like Nat Turner and Denmark Vesey. It caused us to talk about how, you know, we talked about how the Bible was used to justify slavery and the Hamitic curse. Like, we was able to really break down a whole lot. We talked about Willie Lynch, which a lot of the young people didn't know, but we were able to do that using Django as that conversation started. We just had a dope conversation where the point of emphasis on the conversation was Rick Ross and his rape lyrics. But it then began to lead to how young men are really trained to try to game women, to try to get women to drink this and smoke this. So, you know, this culture of like this predatory thing. So we got into a real deep discussion. And so to me, a lot of times we make the analysis about culture is being used to attack our children, but what are we doing to get in between that? I think we can have these conversations and we could use things that are meant to harm our children, and we could flip it into that liberation. Our artists, hip-hop artists, you know, one of the things that it prevents that from happening, that level of organization, is a lot of times it's a business. You know, it's a rap business. And so people are on different labels, people have different this is how people make their living. You know what I'm saying? Booze, Dead Prez, me, that's how you make our living. So it would take, you know what I'm saying, you heard what M1 was talking about today about willing to make those sacrifices and direct action. So I believe that we're ready. You know what I'm saying? And I think you see hip-hop artists like myself lending themselves to organization, whether it's One Hood, whether it's the Nation of Islam, whether it's, you know, the movement to free Mumia Abu-Jamal, which a lot of hip-hop artists were around. You know what I'm saying? So to me, that's where we're at right now. But I think ultimately it's our unity. And what's interesting is a lot of times in the conscious community, it's part of the reason why we want to start One Hood. Because a lot of times the hardest community to unify is the conscious community. And it's because sometimes when knowledge comes, arrogance comes. And we feel like, no, I got the way, it's my way, and if you don't follow my way or my way of belief, you ain't black enough, you ain't down enough, you ain't, and so we created One Hood to say we Christians, we Muslims, we nationalists, we atheists, you know what I'm saying? We, you know, agnostic. We are a group of brothers that really care about our children, and it's a state of emergency. We Sunni Muslims, we all of that. And so our thing was, how can we then go to the young people and say, y'all gangs need to unify? And then we're in all of these different little organizations and things, and we can't even come together on a basis just to save our children. And so that's what it has to come to. It really has to come to, like, what level of sacrifice are we willing to make? Are we able to take that time, sacrifice maybe that show money, maybe that tour money, maybe what a label is saying, and really the labels are breaking down anyway, and say we're going to come together not just for a song but for organization, and then create a real movement. And so with that conversation's being had, I just talked to Brother Ali this morning. You know, we put the video out for the Pillars, you know what I'm saying? I've had that conversation with Talib Lupe, you know what I'm saying, M, you know, this is my first time meeting Boots Riley. So I feel like it's there. And I just want to say this about like marketing, Art Under Pressure. When they bring us into these spaces all together, it even allows us to have more of those conversations. And so we wouldn't be here if it was not for them. So I definitely want to say shout out to them. It's a war on us. You know what I'm saying? For the young black men, it's a war on us. They really want to see us. We're worth more to this country incarcerated than we are free. And so the question we're going to have, so these are choices we're going to have to make. It's not revolutionary to do, like, how can it be revolutionary to sell drugs? You know, I always tell my young people this. Afghanistan, the Taliban almost eliminated 90% of all poppy production, which produces heroin. When the United States government came in and quote unquote liberated Afghanistan, in less than a year was the #1 poppy producer in the world. You know what I'm saying? They want you to be in prison. That's not revolutionary. To be revolutionary, you know what I'm saying, is to free your mind, open your mind, you know what I'm saying, become conscious and really begin to do something independently for self. But that's not gonna happen by osmosis. And so I put the onus not on the black youth, but on the quote unquote conscious community. We have to go and be able to speak to them, teach them, and put it in a way that is not corny, it's not cliched, it's not based on getting money from some damn grant, because we want to put some in our pocket, but that we sincerely go to them to try to help them and teach them and grow them. You know what I'm saying? The youth are a product of adults. You know what I'm saying? These young people didn't, an alien ship didn't come and drop these young people off, man. They're the way they are because of the failure of adults. I thought what Mark said was so powerful. You know what I'm saying? So now that we recognize that, it's our job to then say, okay, now I'm gonna try to give you this information and knowledge to cause you to grow and be conscious, you know what I'm saying? And then last thing too, we gotta show them that like they can succeed. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, people want money. People, this is a material world. So that's another piece. We have to have an economic piece to it. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of times, if we just go to them and say, hey, how much you make on this block? I make about $500. Come with me, man. You can make $1,000. Sometimes something as simple as that will cause them to go, and then as we train them, as we give them that economic base, then we can begin educating them and opening their mind. That's just some one hood theology, you know what I'm saying? You know? Ascension, man. Concept is if hip hop is dead, where does it go? It either goes to heaven or hell. And so Ascension is about really taking hip hop up lyrically, spiritually. Our producer, you know, ironically or non-ironically is named Religion. You know what I'm saying? So I say, you know, he has risen. Jasiri X needed religion, like Malcolm to free him from prison. See, the meeting was written. The album completed the vision, and the outcome was thousands released from the system. So that's just a little, that's not on the album, but that's just something I wanted to share. But it's good hip hop. It's not really a political album. It's more spiritual, lyrical. So it's on iTunes, Amazon, everywhere, man. Check it out, listen to it, tell me what you think, and hopefully support it. All right? Appreciate you, brother, always, man. Hey, man, love y'all.
Bang, bang, book it, sit up, jump the book it to the rhythm of the book it. Come on, gotta look at me. Don't ignore me, keep me alive. Support me, let me survive. The bang, book it, sit up, jump the book it to the rhythm of the book it. Come on, gotta look at me. Don't ignore me, keep me alive. Support me, let me survive.